Hi, I'm Allie, the hands behind the turtle trunk, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet this amigurumi cauliflower. If you're following along with the Pregnancy Progress Project, this is week 27 when baby is about the same size as cauliflower at 2 pounds. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Now let's get started. For today's tutorial, you will need medium weight yarn in the colors white and green, a 4mm and a 5mm crochet hook, polyfill stuffing, scissors, a yarn needle, and stitch marker, and optional supplies include two 10mm black safety eyes and black crochet thread. We're going to start off with our 5mm hook and our white yarn, and we're going to begin with a magic circle, and then I'm going to chain 2 to secure our circle, and all the chain 2s within this pattern do not count as a stitch. So for round 1, we are going to work 5 bobble stitches inside of our circle. And the bobble stitches I'm going to be using are probably a little bit different than a normal bobble stitch. So if you've done a bobble stitch before, this may be a little bit different. So I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook into my circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. So we have 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over, insert our hook into our circle again, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So now we have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, insert our hook into our circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over, insert our hook into the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So right now we have 5 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 5 of those loops. We're going to pull that tight and push our stitches to the back. So we're going to be working on the wrong side, so the wrong side is going to be facing us, and if we flip it over the right side, that's where our bobble is going to be poking out. So that was 1 bobble stitch, and now I'm going to slip stitch inside the circle, and that's just going to help push out the bobble a little bit more. So slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 2 and start another bobble. So yarn over, insert our hook into our circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert our hook into our circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert our hook into the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So we have 4 loops on our hook. One more time. Yarn over, insert our hook into our circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So now we have 5 loops on our hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 5, pull tight, push our stitches to the back, and slip stitch inside the circle. So I'm going to repeat that for a total of 5 bobbles. So I'm just going to carry on, and I'm going to meet you guys at the end of round 1. So I'm just on the last bobble. I'm just going to work it as normal. Okay, and instead of slip stitching to the bottom again on the last one, I am just going to slip stitch into the very first bobble that we made. So the top of the very first bobble, and every time we're going to join to the end, you just want to make sure that you're working into the stitch and not the chain 2 at the beginning. So I'm going to slip stitch to the top of the very first one, and then I'm going to grab our little tail end and just pull it tight, and that's going to close up that circle, or sorry, the hole in the middle. I actually want the tail on the inside. Just pull that tight. Okay, so at the end of round 1, we should have 5 bobble stitches made, so 5 stitches. And for round 2, we are going to chain 2, and we're going to work 2 bobbles into each stitch. So to start off, we did a chain 2, and then we're going to work our bobbles as we have been. So yarn over, insert our hook into the same stitch as the chain, pull up a loop and yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert our hook into the chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and we're just going to continue that until we have 5 loops on our hook. Oops. Okay, that was 5. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 5, push the stitch back, slip stitch into the same stitch we're working into, chain 2, and make another bobble into the same stitch. So we're going to repeat this around, working 2 bobbles into each stitch. Okay, so I just finished that second bobble. And instead of slip stitching into the same stitch, I'm just going to slip stitch right into the next stitch, making sure I'm going into the stitch and not the chain. So I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 2, and make 2 more bobbles. Okay, I'm going to slip stitch into the same stitch, chain 2, and work another bobble into the same stitch. Okay, and after the second one, I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And I'm just going to repeat that around. So at the end of round 2, we should have 10 bobbles. So we're going to be working 2 into each stitch around. So I am just on the last stitch, so the last 2 bobbles of round 2. Okay, so at the end of round 2, we'll have 10 bobbles around. So I'm just going to slip stitch to the very first stitch of the round, making sure to work in the stitch and not into the chain 2. So this is what the back view looks like. So this is going to be the wrong side. And if we flip it over, you'll see the bobbles poking up. So this is our right side. So what we're going to continue to do is we're just going to keep increasing so that this gets wider and wider. So now we're on to round 3, and we're going to start with a chain 2, and then we are going to work 1 bobble into this first stitch. Okay, and I'm just going to put my stitch marker on that first stitch because I find as we increase it gets a little harder to see where that first one is. So now I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Making sure to work into the stitch and not the chain. Okay, so I'm going to slip stitch into the next next stitch, chain 2, and we're going to work 2 bobble stitches into this one. So we're going to work 1, slip stitch into the same stitch, work another, and then we'll slip stitch into the next stitch. Okay, so there's 1. I'm going to slip stitch into the same stitch, chain 2, work another bobble into the same stitch. And then slip stitch into the next stitch. And then I'm going to repeat from the beginning. So we're going to work 1 bobble into the first stitch and 2 into the next. We're going to repeat that around for round 3, and at the end of round 3, we're going to have 15 bobbles around. So I'm just going to continue around working 1 bobble into the first stitch and then 2 bobbles into the next stitch. I'm just on the very last bobble of this round. Okay, at the end of round 3, we will now have 15 bobbles all the way around. Moving on to round 4, we're going to slip stitch into the very first stitch, chain 2, and so for round 4 we're going to keep increasing, so we're going to work 1 bobble into the very first stitch, so the same stitch that our chain is in. And then we are going to work 1 into the next stitch. So I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And work another bobble. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch. I'm going to work 2 bobbles into this stitch. So after the first one's done, I'm going to slip stitch into the same stitch, chain 2, and work another into the same stitch. And then we're going to repeat that around. So I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch, and I'm going to work 1 bobble in each of the next 2 stitches, and then work 2 into the next stitch. We're going to do that all the way around for round 4. And at the end of round 4, our stitch count will be at 20. So I'm just going to continue that around, 1 bobble into each of the next 2 stitches, and then 2 into the next. I'm just on the last bobble of this round. Okay, at the end of round 4, we will have 20 bobbles around. And now on to round 5, we are going to slip stitch into the very first stitch, chain 2, and we are going to work 1 bobble in each of the next 3 stitches, and then 2 in the next. So we're going to keep increasing for this round. So we're going to work 1 bobble into the first stitch, then going into the next stitch, we'll work a slip stitch, chain 2, and work a bobble. Slip stitch into the next stitch and work 1 bobble again. And then slip stitch into the next stitch, and in the 4th stitch we're going to work 2 bobbles, and we're going to repeat that around for round 5, working 1 bobble in the first 3 stitches and then 2 bobbles in the next, and just repeat that around. And at the end of round 5, we are going to have a total of 25 bobbles all the way around. So I'm just going to continue around working 1 bobble in the first 3 stitches and then 2 in the next. And at the end of the round, we should have 25 bobbles all the way around. I'm just on the very last bobble of this round. Okay, and at the end of round 5, we will have a total of 25 bobbles all the way around. And that's all we're going to do for the bobble stitches now. So I'm going to remove my stitch marker, and for round 6, we are just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So what I'm going to do, because we've been working with the wrong side facing us and the right side is on the outside, and I want to switch that around now because we're going to start to close up this white part. So if we're working on the wrong side, then we're going to get kind of caught in the middle. So what I'm going to do is slip stitch into the very first stitch, chain 1, turn, and now I'm going to be working all the way around with the right side facing me. So I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the very first stitch. So 1 single crochet into the very first stitch, and then 1 in each stitch around. And it might be a little bit difficult to see, so you might just need to hold your project so you can see the stitch a little bit better, fold it in a little bit. So we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around, and you're going to notice that since we're just now working single crochets is that it's going to tighten this up a lot. So you'll see what I mean as we keep going. So just make sure you're working into the stitches, not into the chains. And we're going to end up with 25 single crochets at the end of this round. Just keep going around, working 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So I'm going to continue on, and I'll meet you guys at the end of round 6. I'm just coming up to my last couple stitches. So at the end of round 6, we will have 25 single crochets all the way around. So to end this round, I'm going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet that we made. I'm going to chain 1, and before I continue on to the next round, I'm going to stop here to add my face to my cauliflower. So I'm going to grab my safety eyes and my crochet thread and my yarn needle. So I have my eyes, their backings, the crochet thread, and my yarn needle. So I'm going to flip this so that the right side is facing out, and you can add your face wherever you'd like, and I'm going to try and keep mine just in the center here. So here's round 1, so I think I'm going to go between rounds 1 and 2. I'm just going to try and get them as even as possible. And I'm not going to add the backings to my eyes yet. I'm going to just place the smile first, and then if I need to, I can move the eyes around. So I'm just going to go in with my crochet thread through the back and beside one of the eyes. And then I'm going to go down a bit and in the center, and then to the back, and then bring it up beside the other eye. Okay, I like how that looks, so I'm just going to add the backings to my eyes and tie up my crochet thread. And I'm going to tie the thread very loosely, because if we pull too tight, it's going to pull on the bobble stitches. And I want the thread to just sit on top. So I'm just going to secure it with a couple knots, but not pull too tight. And then if you need to adjust the thread at all, You can do so if the thread's not too tight. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm just going to make sure that the thread isn't pulled in between the stitches too much. All right, and now I'm just going to add the backings to my eyes. Alrighty, now we're going to continue on. So now we are on round 7. And for round 7, we're just now going to just keep decreasing to close up the white part. So for round 7, we are going to work 1 single crochet in each of the first 3 stitches. So that's 1. I guess we don't actually really need our stitch marker anymore because we're going to be joining at the end of each round, so it'll be kind of obvious where it is, but I'll just add it anyways. So we worked 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into the second stitch, and 1 into the third stitch. And then we're going to single crochet 2 together. We're going to repeat that, 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet 2 together. 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, 2, 3, and single crochet 2 together. And we're just going to repeat that around for round 7. I just have 2 stitches left of round 7, so I'm going to single crochet 2 together. And at the end of round 7, our stitch count will now be at 20. And we're going to work another decrease round. Oh, sorry, we're going to join to the beginning first. So slip stitch to the very first single crochet that we made, chain 1. And we're going to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into the second stitch, and then single crochet 2 together. We're going to repeat that around, 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then single crochet 2 together. I just have 2 stitches left, so I'm going to single crochet 2 together. And at the end of round 8, our stitch count will now be at 15. So we are going to slip stitch to the very first stitch. And before I move on, I'm going to start stuffing the inside of this before we close up our circle too much. So I'm going to grab some of my fiber fill and just start filling this up. Okay, so I filled mine up as much as I would like. So I'm going to carry on to round 9. So for round 9, so I had already slip stitched to the beginning of the round, so now I'm just going to chain 1. And now I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then single crochet 2 together. We're going to repeat that all the way around. 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then single crochet 2 together. So at the end of round 9, our total stitch count will now be at 10. So we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch, chain 1, and the next round, round 10, is going to be our last round for the white part of our cauliflower. So for round 10, we are going to single crochet 2 together 5 times. So working in the first stitch and the second stitch, we're going to single crochet 2 together. So that was 1, and then single crochet 2 together again, 2, single crochet 2 together, that was 3, single crochet 2 together, 4, and one more time, single crochet 2 together. So at the end of round 10, our stitch count will now be at 5. So to end off, we are going to slip stitch into the very first stitch, chain 1, and then we're going to tie off, leaving about a 6-inch tail. I'm going to grab my yarn needle. I'm just going to pull this loop out, and I'm going to weave our tail into the needle, and then just working in the last 5 stitches, I'm going to weave in and out just to close up this hole at the bottom. And then when you get back to the beginning, just going to pull tight to close it up, and then I'm going to secure it with a couple knots, and then just hide my tail end inside of the cauliflower. All right, and then just hide that in there. And trim the end. So there we have that. So now we're going to move on to our leafy part of our cauliflower. So if you want to grab your green yarn and your 4mm hook, we're going to do the leaf. So I have my 4mm hook and my green yarn, and we're going to begin with a magic circle. And I'm going to chain 1 to secure the circle. And for round 1, we are going to work 7 single crochets inside of the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm going to take this small tail end here and just pull it tight to close up that hole. So at the end of round 1, we'll have a total of 7 single crochets around. And I'm not going to be joining at the end of this round. I'm just going to work straight into the first stitch. So I'm going to work 2 single crochets into this first stitch. And I'm going to grab my stitch markers so I don't lose my place. So that was 1, and I'm going to work a second one into that same stitch. And then we're going to work 2 single crochets into each stitch around. That's 2 into the second stitch, 2 into the third stitch. I'm just going to continue that around, working 2 single crochets into each stitch around. So at the end of round 2, our stitch count will now be at 14. For round 3, I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. I'm going to repeat that around, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And at the end of round 3, our stitch count will be at 21. For round 4, we're going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into the second stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the third stitch. So that's 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets in the next. And we're going to repeat that around for round 4, working 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets into the next. At the end of round 4, our total stitch count will be 28. For round 5, we are going to work 1 single crochet in each of the first 3 stitches. So that was 1 into the first, 1 into the second, and 1 into the third. And into the 4th stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets. And we're going to repeat that around. So 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, and then 2 single crochets in the next. And at the end of round 5, our total stitch count will be at 35. And we're going to work one more increase round. So we're going to work 1 single crochet in the first 4 stitches. So that was 1 into the first, 1 into the second, 1 into the third, and 1 into the fourth. And then we'll work 2 single crochets into the 5th stitch. So we're going to repeat that around. 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, and then 2 single crochets into the next. And at the end of round 6, our stitch count will now be at 42. And for round 7, we're going to start making the circle more into a leafy shape. So we're going to kind of make 3 little bumps coming out, 3 little leaves coming off of this. So to begin, we are going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into the second stitch, then we're going to work a half double crochet into the next stitch, another half double crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, a triple crochet into the next stitch, a triple crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, a half double crochet into the next stitch, a half double crochet into the next stitch, a single crochet into the next stitch, a single crochet into the next stitch. So as you see, that makes a little bump out, and we're going to repeat that 2 more times. So we're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 single crochet and another single crochet. We're going to work 1 half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2, 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 1 triple crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then we're going to go back down. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 1 half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, one double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 1 half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And we're going to do that all one more time. So single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, double crochet, double crochet, triple crochet, triple crochet, double crochet, oops, try that again, double crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, half double crochet, single crochet, single crochet. So at the end of round 7, our stitch count is going to still be at 42. And we're just going to work one more round. So in the first stitch, we're going to work 1 single crochet. And we're pretty much going to repeat the instructions of the last round, except we're going to add a couple extra stitches. We're going to add a couple extra triple crochets. And that's just going to help kind of round our corners a little bit and help bring up the leaves a little bit more. So we're going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into the second stitch, half double crochet into the next stitch, a half double crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, and then we're going to work 2 triple crochets into the next stitch, and 2 triple crochets into the next stitch. And we'll work a double crochet in the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, a half double crochet into the next stitch, a half double crochet into the next stitch, single crochet into the next stitch, and a single crochet in the next stitch. So we're going to repeat that around 2 more times. So single crochet, half double crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, double crochet, 2 triple crochets, two triple crochets, oops, double crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, half double crochet, single crochet, single crochet. I'm going to repeat that one more time. So at the end of round 8, our stitch count is going to be at 48. So now we're done with this. So I'm just going to slip stitch into the very first stitch, chain 1, and I'm going to tie off, leaving quite a long tail, because now we're going to sew this to the main part of our cauliflower. So I'm going to leave about a 12, maybe like actually a 15 to 20 inch tail. It's better to have too much than not enough. So I'm just going to pull that loop out. And I want this part to be on the outside, so I'm just going to flip this. I'm going to trim this tail end as well. And then I'm going to grab my yarn needle and the main part of my cauliflower. And you can put this out wherever you want. You can have it, oh, we're upside down, there we go. You can have it so 2 of the leaves are on the top, 1 on the bottom, 1 on the top, 2 on the bottom. I think I'm going to do mine like this, where there's 1 on the top and 2 on the bottom. Or do I want it the other way? Nope, I'm going to do it like this. 2 on the top, 1 on the bottom. And I'm just going to sew all the way around this, except I kind of want the end parts, the leafy parts, to poke out. So I'm going to not work there. I'm going to just work kind of in the circle where we kept increasing and before we started the leaf. I think I'm just going to work around a circle like that and just leave these end parts unsewn so that they can poke out. If you want, you can sew all the way around it though, so that it all sticks down. It's really up to you how you want to do it. So I'm just going to start here and kind of just work into the circle right here. So that's round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Work around rounds 6 and 7 only, and just make sure that you're working in both the leaf part and the white part, making sure you're getting in both of those. And I'm just going to work in a circle around. I'm not going to worry about it being every single stitch being sewn down. We're kind of more like tacking right now, like it doesn't need to be every single stitch worked down. Just making sure you get quite a few, working in both layers. Because I still want it to be a little bit movable, moldable. Work all the way around. So I'm back at the beginning where I started, so I'm just going to secure this with a couple knots. And then I'm going to hide my tail end just on the inside. And trim the excess. And there we go. There's our little cauliflower. Thank you so much for following along, and I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you a part of the Turtle Trunk family. You can find this pattern and more free patterns on my new blog, whoshomemade.com. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and be sure to tag your photos so I can see your finished turtle trunk creations. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you next time.